their chest with death on the seeds of my open shores. To be pages in the dreams of XYD to Alpha Mega. One is on to tune it to, but what to tune it to, but what you tuning to, tuning to, tuning to. Ole ole light, ole ole light, silent silent night, silent silent night.
Chapter 5, Flat Earth and NASA. What do you mean we never went to the moon? We could discuss the missing telemetry tapes, the issues with shadows in the various lunar photos, the change in portrayed size of the Earth when purportedly photographed from the moon, the flag waving, the lack of stars in space, the left-behind photographer whom snapped a picture of the lunar module departing, the shoddiness of the vessel that allegedly traveled over 230,000 miles into space and back, surviving the Van Allen radiation belts twice, the fact that lunar videos of rover modules, when sped up, look like they are operating at normal speed, and many other questions that were raised in A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. Not to mention the quick dismissal of Neil, Buzz, and Michael from NASA's ranks after they returned, the shyness and lack of public participation from Neil Armstrong throughout his life, the cryptic speech Armstrong gave to a prodigious student body about, quote, uncovering one of truth's protective layers, end quote, as well as Kubrick's ties with NASA in the 1960s and the meaning of Room 237 in The Shining, the economic boon of pricing out space travel journeys which are not in fact utilized, the admittedly CGI composite photographs of the sphere Earth from space, the current NASA difficulty in exiting low Earth orbit, the changing shape of the American and African continents on the sphere Earth in subsequent editions of the Blue Marble. But instead of going through all that, let's just consider 3 astronauts, these 3 American heroes, whom appear in a post-Apollo landing conference clearly with guilty consciences. After all, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to spot a liar. It was perhaps the most seminal moment in the history of the human imagination. No, it is not when a 33-story Apollo rocket launched from Cape Canaveral. No, it was not the archetypical boot imprint of mankind first impressed upon the lunar surface, but rather it is this point in the story when the hero returns home, where the catharsis to every great odyssey occurs. After having traveled the world over, or slayed the dragons, or defeated the empire, or landed on the moon, whether Odysseus or Arthur or Luke, or in this case Neil, Buzz, and Michael, the hero returns to their homeland, their castle, or their hamlet, and peaceful resolution wafts over the viewer, reader, or audience, for they have gone deep into the unknown, and now they have returned safely back from whence they began, here on Earth. This most epic narrative of the human imagination, which was the Apollo mission and the moon landing, had all the right ingredients to be an embodiment of the hero's journey. It contained the perfect mix of socio-political components to be a solvent for the Cold War, a reprieve from nuclear eminence, a declaration of American superiority in the wake of Sputnik. The only problem was, contrary to Odysseus or Arthur or Luke, these heroes, Neil, Buzz, and Michael, whom came home victorious, did so looking like penitent schoolboys receiving detention. This is a serious flaw in the narrative and prevents the emotional catharsis the audience requires. The heroes must be waving their fists defiantly, cheering or smiling, displaying full-on ticker tape parade type behavior. Now take a look at Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins, pictured above. If you watch the entirety of the live radio broadcast, you can feel along with these anti-heroes the squeamish difficulty of languaging their deception. Everything from fidgeting, pinching one's skin, excessive throat clearing, and long pauses between word choices arm any accredited psychoanalyst with enough triage to declare a likely misrepresentation or blatant deception. Watch this choice minute by Armstrong, count the uhs, and note how the hesitancy connotes searching for the right words in his mind.
The surface, as we said, was fine-grained with lots of rocks in it. It took footprints very well, and the footprints stayed in place. The limb was in good shape and exhibited no damage from the landing or the descent. It's a picture of the ladder with the well-known plaque on the primary strut. There was a question as to whether the limb would sink in up to its knees. It didn't, as you can see. The foot pad sunk in perhaps an inch or two, and the probe in this picture was folded over and sticks up through the sand in the bottom right-hand corner, showing that we were indeed traveling slightly sideways at touchdown.
Words are pulled like teeth from Neil Armstrong's mouth because he does his best to speak as little dishonesty as humanly possible. And why, you may ask? Because all three of them appear to feel acutely and exactly what they are perpetrating, and their willingness to do so does not make it an easy task. Now conceive the larger narrative, one where space programs have a monopoly on images of Earth from space. If the only images of Earth we have from space are from people whom appear to be deceitful, how is an earnest researcher supposed to take such video and photography at face value? In particular, when such things are so easily falsifiable. Have astronauts and astrophysicists become the modern priestcraft of our current worldview? Are they holding the keys and the secrets and the magic to the reality that we live in? If they're the keepers of the real, as far as we know, it is only because we've given our power over to them by consenting to a fabricated narrative lacking sufficient evidence. Permit an anecdote. Think about parents and their relationship to their kids with respect to Santa Claus. The parents know their kids believe in Santa Claus because they told them to, and because of their kids' belief in Santa, the parents are able to perform a trick every Christmas. Santa came, he ate the cookies and drank the milk, the reindeer left marks on the roof, etc. The kids go nuts for it. They want to believe in Santa Claus because he brings presents. But what happens as the kids grow up? They start to get suspicious. I remember one year wanting to stay up all night to see if Santa was really real. I had begun to doubt. So this is not an off-base analogy to how modern humans react to scientists. Whoa, that's the Earth from the moon? Wow, that's how big the universe is? Whoa. But contrary to Santa Claus, who gives you cool presents, NASA and astrophysicists like Neil deGrasse Tyson give you a worldview that makes you feel like a random evolved germ accident on an insignificant speck of dust, feebly streaming through a vast and inhospitable universe. It was Carl Sagan who coined the term the small blue dot. Furthermore, they suggest we are traveling at incalculably high speeds and with contrary motions which cannot be observed, and that we are even facing impending doom, if not from an asteroid like the one that killed the dinosaurs, then an alien invasion. See Chapter 4. Well, flat earthers are like these kids growing up and beginning to doubt. We're staying up late, we're waiting in the stairwell and listening for sounds from the rooftop or inside the chimney, but instead of hoof marks and cookie crumbs, it's earth curvature and photoshopped globes. We're looking for proof the legend of the sphere Earth is real. But even if you don't buy that analogy, consider, why aren't we shown images from space that depict cities, cars, and ocean liners upside down, stuck to the bottom of the Earth? Wouldn't those be fantastic marketing posters for gravity, in the name of popular scientism? Perhaps the infamous Nietzsche was on to something when he wrote, "I am God's advocate with the devil. He, however, is the spirit of gravity. How could I be an enemy to divine dancing, you nimble creatures?" As mentioned, the only game in town with full images of the ball Earth are space programs. Let's delve into this one further piece of evidence. The Galileo mission purportedly took time-lapse photography of the Earth and strung together a 24-hour video of how Earth looks from space. It was on December 8th, 1990, that an unmanned Galileo spacecraft traveling at an altitude of 51,337 miles and at a speed of 21,126 miles per hour came close enough to Earth to take 24 hours of steady footage of the world. There's a few uploads of it on YouTube. The one I found that was most complete was a 2 minutes and 22-second video uploaded by Flim voor de Erde. Some may argue this could be fake NASA footage, but it feels historically accurate and appears the same as many other versions of it online. So for the first 90 seconds or so, the Earth spins beautifully, though none of the clouds move. Now, some clouds not moving would make sense, but if you think about the general behavior of clouds, the idea that none of them would move is unlikely. Then the video camera zooms in on a section of the globe, allegedly near Australia, and at approximately 1:47, the frame crossfades, and lo, all of a sudden we have beautiful cloud movement. So you think, oh, we must have been a scale issue, right? Like they're zooming in, now you can see clouds. They didn't appear to be moving because we were just so far away. Well, that's what I thought. And that could be true, except there was one major mistake. If you look at the edge of the spherical Earth in the close-up frame, which up until the crossfade was rotating at a noticeably steady speed from further away, then all of a sudden you can plainly observe that it has stopped rotating. The purportedly spinning ball Earth in that frame, which is zoomed in, meaning it should appear to be moving quicker because you're looking at a smaller portion of the Earth, is literally not moving at all. Now, in order to corroborate the footage in question with the narrative espoused by NASA, we have on record on December 8th, 1990, at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Carl Sagan and fellow astronaut Andy Ingersoll doing an interview on JPL TV with planetary astronomer Richard J. Tyrrell. During the interview, Sagan mentions the ability to have obtained a close-up in this recent Galileo sequence of what he said would be somewhere over the middle of Australia.
That it will obtain. One of which that Andy Ingersoll and I have both been involved with is the construction of a movie which will show the Earth rotating before us, sitting in the blackness of space. One that we didn't get but hope to get next time is shows the Earth there and the Moon going around it in a stopped motion movie. There will be a zoom. Pictures will be taken in a time reversed sense, but what we will eventually see is a picture like the one that has just come through of Australia, and then the spacecraft backing off, and a very nice setting of a perspective of one area in Central Australia.
This undergirds the notion that the footage was presented as veridical, but does not account for the fact that once we've zoomed in over Australia, where the clouds are streaming by and swirling like clouds do, the Earth itself is not spinning. Funny to note, too, how Sagan refers to his work with Andy Ingersoll as, quote, the construction of a movie. If Galileo was documenting our home, a globe, that continually spins, as NASA claims, then how could a satellite revealing video of the Earth show 90 seconds of no cloud movement, then cut to a zoomed-in frame with moving clouds, but where the edge of the allegedly ball Earth is not moving? The answer is that this was computer graphical work done in the 1990s, and they certainly didn't anticipate there would be an internet, let alone droves of flat earthers scouring every inch of NASA evidence frame by frame looking for inconsistencies. My theory is simply that they couldn't have anticipated such a force of brain power, nor suspected it would carry heavy judicial criticism upon their ethos and with such extreme attention to detail. It was simply amateur computer graphical work. So what do you mean we never went to the moon and NASA equals Santa Claus? Because the only legitimate proof we have that we're on a ball is a picture of it. The only pictures of it appear to be fake, and the only game in town that is producing such photographs or movies are space programs from around the world, all of whom receive heavy financial support within their respective constituencies and thus have ample financial incentives. Did Santa enjoy the cookies and milk? End of chapter 5. Chapter 6, Heliocentrism and Gravity, the vacucentric origins of fairy tale spinners.